Now, let's talk about the census. Yesterday, you were required by law, as I was, as every single person living in the UK was, to actually fill out a snapshot of what is happening in their life, where they live, whether they work, their age, who lives with them, and the like. It's every single decade a census is carried out, and there's a £1,000 fine for those who don't fill it in either online or on paper. But what on earth is it used for? Well, let's talk to Jagdev Singh Verdi, who's a fellow at the Royal Statistical Society. He's former deputy chair at the Office of National Statistics as well. Good morning to you, Jagdev.
Good morning,
Good morning
Julia.
I have to say, do carry on.
Sorry, just to correct, I'm not former deputy chair at ONS. I was a former deputy director, and I've worked at the ONS for many years. But also, can I just start by congratulating Talk Radio on your 5 years?
Oh, thank you very much. Very much appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's get into this then, the census. I filled it out yesterday on behalf of the family, and I mean, it didn't take very long. The questions were very, very straightforward. You know, how old are you? What job do you do? How long have you lived at your home? Who lives with you? Do you have a religion, sexuality, and things like that? It was all rather straightforward. A lot of people will wonder, though, why it's so, for lots of people, very intrusive. Some of the questions aren't mandatory, but asking people, well, whether they are married to someone, of the same sex or opposite sex, how they identify their sexuality, and that. Why is any and their race as well? Why is any of this necessary to be caught? Basically to be identified by the government?
Well, the census provides a key benchmark, I think, for statistics to manage the whole country. Basically, data can be linked to other data to provide information for particular groups. So whether it's the LGBT groups, whether it's ethnic minorities, faith groups, they want to know information about themselves. How many people in each group are living in the country, whether they're getting the right sort of resources, or whether their equal rights can be sort of monitored as well. So that sort of information is important. In terms of location, businesses know where the best places for them to locate themselves. In terms of types of families, there's been change over the years in terms of sizes of families. So the type of housing that we need over time is changing, and we need more smaller flats, maybe for more single people, as fewer people are getting married. So a lot of that information is very useful over time.
It is actually used not just by the government, it can be used by businesses and other organisations, charities presumably as well. But I think the idea originally, wasn't it, you needed to have that information so that they could channel resources at different regions and would know which particular areas and neighbourhoods or regions would need extra funding, and whether people are out of work, in work, and how many children and the like. So that's one of the reasons why it is very important that everyone does fill it out, because if people don't fill it out, it's not an accurate representation.
Absolutely, and the census, by definition, is a census of the whole country, so it's not a sample survey. It is only once every 10 years, so it's not very onerous, as you said. You filled it in yourself. But it does inform key decisions. For example, if in a local area you want to put in a bid for a nursery, you want to know how many children are in the area who might need facilities such as that, you can actually use local data. It is the only source that provides very, very local information, so that you can know more, have much better knowledge about your very local area.
Yeah. But indeed, I mean, all that information, I mean, that what you give in personally, it's not related to your physical address or your name or anything like that. It's all completely, that is all kept secret and confidential.
Absolutely. So anything that is published is completely anonymized. It's only aggregate data, but at a very local level. In fact, ONS have to treat it so confidentiality that there's legislation in place so that if there was a leak, ONS staff responsible could actually go to jail.
It's that serious. Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. And in terms of whether we continue doing a census like this, I mean, previously I filled them in on paper. This one was online. You were able to apply to get one on paper if you weren't able to get one online. But I mean, so many people have gone online in the last year, certainly, even if people weren't before. Very, very simple process. But there was a row, wasn't there, over identity, whether people could identify as a different gender, whether from birth as opposed to how they are self-identifying now. That row was resolved by going to the courts, but there have been ongoing rows, haven't there? Have been about questions about religion, and again, all just questions about people's sexuality and how whether this is and indeed people's race, whether these are intrusive questions and unnecessary.
It, some people do regard them as intrusive. On the other hand, many people from the diverse communities actually want that information. And so normally before the census, there's a lot of consultation that happens with many, many organizations, over several years, in fact. And so these questions are decided after all of that consultation. So yes, the ONS, the UK Statistics Authority, they have to strike a reasonable balance between the concerns and the needs of the information.
Okay, Jagdiv Singh Verdi, thank you so much indeed, fellow at the Royal Statistical Society. Just to clarify, you do need to fill in that census. It's not actually completely across the UK. England, Wales and Northern Ireland, you have to do it. £1,000 fine. If not, Scotland, for some reason, have decided to delay it until March 2022. I'm sure if everyone else can manage it, I'm not quite sure why they can't, but there we are.